Welcome back to my workshop. Now today I've got this plant and this plant pot, and I've got to make a planter, so basically a wooden box to put this in. And the materials I've got is a single piece of construction timber. So let's make a planter. So the first thing to do was to get the pot that I'm going to use and measure it to get some dimensions. So that would give me the idea of how big the planter has got to be. First cut was a rough cut from my piece of construction timber. As you could see from the bit of timber, it was quite rough edges. So basically it's got to go through the planer. So first of all, what I did is faced off all of the pieces on one face and one side. Then that gave me a right angle, and then I could convert my machine here and then put them through so I can get them all equal thicknesses, which gives me my basic timber size. Once that was done, quick tidy up. So then I had to cut it into slats. So basically the whole box is going to be constructed out of small battens. So what I did is I started trying to do it on the bandsaw, but it was much quicker and easier to do it on the table saw. And this was a quick try to see how it's going to work. Okay, so I just had to make a little jig, because when I did the initial cuts of the pieces of wood, they were slightly different. So if you can see here, slightly difference in size of the wood. This end the same, this end slightly different. So what I've had to do is make a jig so I can quickly cut all of these new battens into the same length pieces. So what I've got here is, if we can see, on my table saw sled, I've made a little stop. Okay, so what happens in theory is I can put the battens in, they come up to the stop, then I can cut them through the table saw, and then each one will be exactly the same length. So let's quickly try a couple of those. Okay, so now both of these should be exactly the same length, which they are. Can we see? Here, here. Okay, so what I've got to do now is do that for all of the battens, so I can get them all the same size. Right, I'll carry on. Right, so next issue I've got is on the side of the planter, where I'm going to be making these into a board. Basically what I want is some sort of taper between each board, because obviously each one looks different. You can tell they're different. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little taper along the edge. And the way I'm going to do that is by setting up my planer. So the fence here is at 45 degrees, and then I'm going to run each batten along here to get a 45 degree taper on each edge. So let me quickly do that. So now I've got a taper on each corner, here and here. So when they go together, the effect is going to be a bit more like this. Okay, so I shall carry on with that. So now I have all my battens cut, and what I've got to do now is the big glue up. So I'm going to glue them into panels, so there'll be 4 panels, one for each side. So I'm going to get on with the glue up now. Right, so there's now the side panels are all glued up. If you look down here, okay, I shall now leave those overnight. It was a bit of a messy glue up, but never mind. So now all I've got to do is tidy up this mess, all this lot, and then tomorrow I shall resume. Okay. Right, so the basic box shape sides are made now. They all fit together quite nicely, not glued yet, but I need to make a base. I don't have a piece of board big enough, so what I'm going to have to do is I've got a piece of old pallet wood, which is long enough, it's quite long. So what I'm going to do is chop this up and make a board out of it so I can use it as the base. So let's get on with that. So I've cut up the piece of pallet wood and I've cut it into the right size. Now while that's sticking together, I need to do a recess in the bottom of the box. So basically I've got my box laid out flat at the moment. So this is how it all fits, the sides go up. What I need to do is the thickness of my base, I need to do a recess all along the bottom. So that's on the inside. So when the box is closed, there'll be a recess here and here and all the way along, so that way the weight on the base is actually pushing into the box. So I shall be doing that on the table saw to make a small recess along here. So I'll get on with that now. Right, that's as far as I can go today. The box is actually sticking together now. So the base is on and the box is sticking together. I started to make a plaque which is going to go on the side of the box, but this went slightly wrong, so I'm going to redo this. But that means I've had to make another piece of wood, another board. So leave this to dry, leave that to dry, come back to it tomorrow. Right, so the main box has been gluing overnight. I've now released all of the clamps. I've quickly fitted the top. Now, of course, it had a hole in the top because this is made out of two pieces. But I need to cut a circle the size of the plant pot. So the plant pot can actually sit just inside here, but just slightly proud of the top of the box. Now, what I've had to do, because obviously it's got a hole in the middle, and I want to draw a circle, I've quickly put some tape over the middle, set a couple of calipers or a pair of calipers to the right size, scribed a quick circle. I've gone round it with a pencil, and what I'm going to do now is cut this out on the bandsaw and then tidy up on my sander. Okay, so I'm going to do that now. Right, so that's the circle cut in the top. What I'll probably do is run around that with a trimming bit on my router to make that nice. But what I want to do now, I want it raised off the floor a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use these. Yeah, they're basically doorknobs, or they're actually off of drawers. Now all I'm going to do is drill some holes in the bottom and have these mounted through the bottom as little feet. So I'm going to change them from knobs to feet. Alright, so all I've got to do now is drill some holes in the bottom and then fit them. Okay, so the plaque is now engraved with the CNC machine. Now what I want to do is, I've got the picture of my dog here, and then obviously the name and some dates. I want these in black. I know it's on hardwood, but I want these in black. So what I have to do is coat the whole thing in a layer of shellac first, leave that to dry, and then when I paint in here it won't soak into the wood, and then I can sand it off afterwards. So the first thing to do is give this a quick coat of shellac. Now I'm just using this shellac, okay, and just use a normal paintbrush to apply a small coat. So let's get on with that. Okay, so that's a quick coat of shellac on there. I blew it with the airline quickly to make sure there was shellac in all of the lettering. Okay, I shall leave that overnight to dry now, and then once it's dry I can paint it. I've now painted in the engraved lettering here and the picture of the dog, and what I'll do is I'll leave that to dry so the paint is dry, and then I can sand it all down. In the meantime, what I want to do is put some trimming around the edge. So I've got some pieces of hardwood which I got from a garden bench. These have already been through the planer once. and the plan is to have something around the top like this. Obviously not this big, so I should trim these down and then try and form those into a nice bit of trim. So I'll probably do that on the table saw, I think. Okay, so now I've unclamped all my edging strips. The only issue I have is there's a slight difference in size between all of them. Let me show you. Okay, so here's my 4 strips. Now the problem is they're not quite the same size. Some of them are slightly smaller. So what I'm going to have to do is run them through the planer or through the thicknesser. Because otherwise when they go round the box, around the top of the box, each side will be a different height. So I'm going to run these through the thicknesser now. More noise. Okay, so now my trimming bits, I've tapered each end at 45 degrees. So these now fit on the top like this. This goes here. Just quickly put a clamp on it. Then this one goes here, this one goes here, etc, etc. So that's what it's going to look like. Going to stick those on with some wood glue and see how we go on. Oh. Okay, so while I'm waiting for that to dry, what I'm going to do is fill in these little gaps I have here. Okay, these gaps were created when I made the recess for the base and the top. Now the top is going to be covered up by the trim, but the bottom, I think what I'll do is I'll just put in some little infills. So basically I'll use the same wood, just cut some little squares like this. Okay, and what I should do is put those in, making sure that the grain, I've got the end grain showing here. So I should just stick those in with wood glue. Each one of those I'll trim, sand it down so it fits nicely. Okay, so I shall get on with that now. Right, so I'm now kneeling on the floor. What I want to do is mount this in the side of the box. So I'm on the floor because I need to work on the side of the planter. Now what we have to do is find the centre of this plaque, mark it, which is what I've done here. And then find the center of the box, okay, like this. So find the center of that, which is 41, so 20 and a half. Let's find my pencil. 20 and a half. Then strike a center line. Okay, this will all be sanded off later. So now the mark I've made on here, which is halfway. Okay, all I have to do is line that up with this mark. Now obviously that will give us centre this way. But what I need to do is find out where I want it vertically. I think what I'll do is I'll go from here. Okay, so it's marked here. I use that ridge. Okay, which will give us our bottom position. So let's just have that square, 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 and draw a bottom line. Okay, so basically what I need to do now is route out this area. And what I'm going to use is my small router. with a 12mm bit here, and this is set to be about 8mm deep. Okay, so the recess I'm making here will be about 8mm. To make sure I get straight lines, what I'm going to do is use one of my clamps this way and actually run my router along the side of that. Okay, so I'll get on with that. Okay, so I finished on the floor now. I gave up on using my guide rails because everything was in the way. The feet were in the way, so I couldn't clamp the guides properly. So what I ended up doing, as you probably saw, was I used my square to run the router along. Okay, I've trimmed it up now with a chisel, so this now should fit in here, which it does. This is going to be profiled around the edge anyway, and then obviously there's going to be some sanding going on. Okay, so that's that bit. Right, carry on. Right, so now I've sanded off the face of this. We're now ready to fill this with resin. Now what the idea is, here's her old dog collar or dog tag. This is going to sit in this recess here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill it with resin. Okay, so what I need to do is mix up some resin. Now I'm using glass cast with glass cast hardener. Now for those of you who've seen my videos before, you've seen me use this before. Won't be using it for much longer because I haven't got much left. So basically I use 2 parts this, 1 part this, mix it all together, and then basically float it into this. That's the plan. Right, I'm going to mix that up now and see how we go. Right, I've now been mixing this for a couple of minutes. Now it looks like this has gone a little bit milky. I shouldn't really use it, but I don't have much of a choice. I've just done a quick experiment. I poured some of it onto a piece of plain wood, and it looks like I can get it to go clear. So I'm going to use it. What I'm going to do is, first of all, I'm going to put a very small dab in the bottom of the hole. Then I'll place the tag on it, and then I'll float the rest on the top. So let's do that quickly. Can you see? Okay, right. So a tiny bit on here. Okay, and now I'm just going to use my little blowtorch to try and get rid of any of the extra bubbles. Very gently heating it. Okay, I did drill a couple of holes through the back so the resin can go through into the back to act as a keyway to stop it all falling out. Right, let's leave that to set. Okay, so I've had a busy day today of sanding. I haven't really videoed much of that because it's quite boring. What we've done is given it a coat of this wood dye, because obviously the construction timber was all a bit blonde. So we've given it a little bit of colour with this. This was Georgian medium oak. And then I applied that with a rag. Then I give it a coat of Danish oil. This is clear or natural. So what I'll do now is I'll leave that overnight to dry, because I've got to leave it 6 hours before I can give it a light rubbing down and maybe another coat. So what I'll do is I'll get back to that tomorrow. I'll get back to that tomorrow and finish that off. Right, so that's it. It's all finally done. It's underneath this piece of cloth here. But before I show you it, I just wanted to go over why I made this in the first place. Basically, it's for my dog that we've had for the last 13 years or so, who's now sadly no longer with us. Her name was Beau, lovely dog. But now I wanted something to put in the place where her bed used to be. So I made the planter, we bought a plant. So making this was, even though it wasn't a tricky project, it was quite difficult to make for emotional reasons. So now I'll show you what it's like. It's all done now. It's had another couple of coats of Danish oil and I've buffed it off slightly. What I'll do is I'll wait until it goes really hard and then give it another buffing. So I'll show you what it's like now. Ta-da! Okay, so here's the plaque, and it's actually got a collar, a dog collar in it, which has gone into the resin quite nicely. The engraving's quite nice. The top lifts up. The top is like this now. Okay, the top lifts up like this, comes off, so you can put a plant in it and then put this back in like that. Okay, so yeah, it's come out quite nice. I'm quite pleased with it. So let me just put a plant in it and show you where it's going to live. So this is where the plant is going to go. This is where a bed used to be. The plant we've got in it is a peacock plant, I think it's called, which opens out quite a lot during the day. So that's where it's going to live, and that will give us a little reminder of our pet. She was lovely. All right, thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. And next time we'll make something else out of wood. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye. I have all my battens cut. Oh. Oh. So now I've cut my base. No, start again.